was? What was the journey to get to this very corner that allows me to be standing here at this moment? All right, so May 28th, 1984. I was born in Cali, Colombia. All right. My mom had just turned 17 years old. My dad was 25, if I do the math. And here comes Jonathan to the world. All right, Cali, Colombia. My mom is obviously very young. My dad is obviously very young, struggling. Stories are told. I slept in a TV box with pillows in it. I don't know if this is true. I've never seen pictures. These are just stories told to me through the years. And as we talk about the physical pictures, looking back in my life, I have no physical pictures with myself and my parents. So, excuse me. Just thinking back to that moment and saying, okay, boom. I have no physical picture to ever look back to from a child who maybe thought a family structure existed. From what I remember, from when I remember being a baby or a child or whatever it is, all of my memories were living in my grandmother's house, same house with my dad and my uncles, and obviously my grandmother lived. Whew. Let me gather myself. So it was my grandmother. I was the baby of the house. For me, that was the family structure I understood. My dad lived in the house with his brothers, and my grandma was the mom. So that was just the structure that was built for me. That's what I believed in. Again, this is what family is right here. But then I had to start but noticing that my mother would visit me. So, all right, cool, I'm with my grandma. I'm thinking this is my mother figure, but I have this young, beautiful girl that comes to visit me. Years go by. Obviously, this is the how it happens, and suddenly my father marries. Obviously, he's still a single man. He has to create his own life. I had to stop. So let's get back to it. So he had to create his own life, right? And it was time for him to, have a wife and do what it was that he was gonna do for a life. And, obviously it never worked out between him and my mom. So that was so very young. Of course, selfishly, you can say that shouldn't have happened. Then it went from the household where my dad was there to now my dad and my mom are both visiting. Even though I would see my dad every single day of my life. Every single day of my life. He was there. My grandmother's house had a jewelry shop on the second floor, and all of my uncles, my whole family worked there. One of my uncles was the owner of it. It was the family business, it was jewelry. So my dad was working. He was working there, so he'll be there early in the morning. By the time I wake up, he'll be there bringing me breakfast. Everything. He was extremely present and invested so much into it. But for me, it was at the end of the night. Now he was no longer in the house. He had to go. So that would have, as a child, affected. Like, nah, I don't want you to go. I remember holding onto the window and just crying for him to stay. It wasn't that he wasn't that person. He was trying to balance everything out. It wasn't easy for him, and I did it. So whatever, all that happened. Then suddenly, my mother decided she was moving to Europe. So now the visits that were happening, at least they happened. They were going to be non-existent. So I was like, okay, she's moving to Europe. That's what's up. And within less than a year, my dad migrated to the United States by himself. And not to say that he never planned bringing me here, but because they did get the papers for me, but it wasn't to bring me right away. So now my mom is gone, right, and my dad is gone to the U.S. and I'm in Colombia. So I'm sitting there thinking like, wow, well, what's of me? Like, what am I gonna do? And these were thoughts going through my mind as a kid, like, sorry guys, I keep having to stop. This turned into like a therapy session for me, but that's what this was all about. So I left back thinking, what about me? What's going on? My mom's in Europe, my pop's in the United States. I'm here with my grandma. What's up with me? And to follow that, then his wife comes here first with my little brother. So they're here, and not to say that I at that moment I thought I'm next. Like I knew that I was next, but it still felt like, okay, like how much longer do I have to wait? And as the process went, things got worse around the neighborhood where we were living in. So my grandmother and my uncle took on the role of taking care of me. My uncle was much younger, so he was in the streets. He knew the people in the neighborhood, so he could kind of pay that street eye for me and take care of me. So that was the foundation there. But stuff started to happen. So it was 1995, I believe so. And it was late at night, and for some reason I felt like I didn't want to sleep in the bed by myself. I wanted to go sleep with my grandma, right? And on the weekend, my uncle would usually go out to drink, so he wouldn't be in the room where we ended up just being both of us sharing. He was literally my roommate and my grandmother in her room. He would be out partying, so I didn't want to sleep by myself that night for some reason. I couldn't sleep. And I went over to my grandmother's room and I asked her to climb in the bed with her and sleep there. She was okay with it. So my grandmother's bedroom was right next to the window, literally, like her bed was pushed onto the side where the window was, so you could see outside if you moved the curtain. And I was so restless that night, I just couldn't sleep. I started just looking outside of the window, and then this is like, what, 2 in the morning? If anything you see at 2 in the morning, it's probably drunk people walking by. But I saw no one was coming by, and then suddenly comes Juancho is called. Juancho. He was coming through the corner, and he was the neighborhood drug addict. He was, a child of the neighborhood that got caught in drugs, but his mom still lived on the same block. His sister's brothers were part of the neighborhood, so you always accepted these people within our neighborhood. Like, he was okay. We knew he was a crackhead. You gotta watch around him. He doesn't steal from you, but he was part of the community somehow. I know it sounds crazy, but that's how it felt. Like, Juancho was there. You just had to be careful with him, and anytime you see him, he'll always remember you anyways. He'll say what's up to you, and he would always make it a point to tell me that when he was in his prime, he went out with my mother. That was his girlfriend, and it's just a side story. So he comes around the corner, and I see him standing there, and then suddenly, like 30 seconds after, I see a motorcycle roll up to the corner, and this guy stands, he gets the motorcycle, stands with his feet on the ground, and pulls out a gun on him, puts it next to the back of his head, and blows his brains out. Like, I swear I saw this happening. Not to say that I saw anything splashing, but I just hear the pop, and I see this human body just plop into the floor. This guy gets in his motorcycle and leaves. So my grandmother wakes up from the shot. It's literally in the corner of our house, because this is the corner of our house. Wakes up from a shot, screaming. Doesn't realize I'm looking out the window. Tries to go to look outside, and then she starts screaming for me to stay down, stay in the house, don't move, until everybody starts coming out. And then the next day, everybody finds out what happened. What were the odds of me looking out that window and being that one kid at 11 years old that saw this? So this is just to see where things were going. So I never told my grandmother I saw this. She never knew. She protected me and tried to keep me in the house from not seeing or being involved in any of that, because that was the foundation of my family. There was love, abundant love. That's one thing I never lacked. And never said anything. After that, things kept going. about a month or two after that, we were in the house once again. And we had a front yard and then a gate. It was a gated door. You had to put a gate in front of the door for double security. And I come out to the outside just to play around with some toys. And as I'm outside, we hear a pop. And me as a curious kid, I run to the corner, like, oh, what's going on? Before my grandmother goes out the house, and then boom, another body's laying on the floor across the street. So then now my grandmother knows that I'm seeing that I'm being exposed to this, grabs me, puts me in the house, tries to talk me through it about what I just saw. But I was never like scared. I wasn't scared. Like that didn't scare me. As strange as it sounds from that first exposure, it didn't scare me. I wasn't scared. She was more scared for me than I was for myself. That happened, and lastly, what did they say here, broke the camel back was I was a block off of where we lived, where I used to play with a lot of my friends. And in Colombia, we were playing with marbles on the floor, in the dirt, just playing with marbles, hitting marbles, different games that we used to play. If you're Colombian and you see this, el quiebrahuesos cuando uno jugaba con los dedos, and you would literally, at the end of the game, the last person would put their fist in the dirt and we would hit it with marbles. We had a certain amount. It was crazy, but just to say that that's what we were doing. And I hear a shot, pop, pop, right on the corner from where I was playing. And I see a whole bunch of people rushing right to the scene in a motorcycle taking off. So I go to the corner and everybody's like, nah, John, we're good. Don't come near this area. And I look over and it's one of our friends laying on the ground, and they put him into a pickup truck. They take him. I don't know what happened after that, meaning I'm just sitting back until the next day I find out that he passed. He had died. And he was the nephew of my father's friend, and we knew they were from the neighborhood. He was just at the wrong place at the wrong time. They confused him for somebody else. And around that time, a lot of threats started to go out to the kids in the neighborhood. Not me particularly, but a lot of the kids that were my friends. And it came to light that they had gotten into a fight with another kid at a school party, hit him over the head with the bat, and he was in a coma in the hospital. Mind you, yes, I am 11 years old, but most of the kids I played with, they were like 14, going on to 15. I was the youngest kid in the neighborhood. So they harmed somebody and didn't know that one of their family members was what we call in Colombia un sicario. He was a hitman, and he wanted out for whoever put his nephew in the hospital. So my friend was mistaken. He had nothing to do with the situation, and he lost his life. My grandmother's finding out about other people getting threats. She calls my dad and says, you have to take this kid with you. He has to. I can no longer deal with him or help raise him. So that was the day that we decided that I was coming to this very corner. I'll walk you through that journey of how I got here. This is a funnier one, and I'll hold on for that one, but we'll make it happen.